Hi, so in this session we are going to talk specifically about pelvic floor activation. So when you have given birth, it is really important that you bring some awareness back to your pelvic floor and you reconnect with your pelvic floor. When we have suffered any sort of trauma, so even if your birth was absolutely beautiful, you will have suffered some sort of trauma to your body. It sometimes triggers a disconnection between your brain, your pudendal nerve, and your genitals. So just bringing in some activation to the pelvic floor can signal your body to work better in coordination. In my line of teaching, where I specialize in bringing the body back into coordination, I won't be teaching a lot of holding on and bringing up the pelvic floor and holding it for a lot of time. I also won't be asking you to hold your pelvic floor whilst you're doing your exercises. The reason is because I want your pelvic floor to work in coordination with the rest of the body. If your pelvic floor is held in an isometric contraction, it means it will not work in coordination with the rest of the body. So today's little section on bringing the body back into coordination with the pelvic floor, asking it to contract and asking it to release, is not something that I'm going to ask you to do whilst you're doing your exercises, but it is something that is really important to check in with, especially when you are postnatal. So I'm going to explain now how the pelvic floor works within the system. So you have your rib cage and you have your diaphragm, which sits inside of the rib cage. Depending on how much movement the diaphragm gets will depend on how much movement your pelvic floor gets. So because of this connection between the diaphragm and the pelvic floor, I always allow breath to be the driver of a pelvic floor activation. So we will always inhale to prepare and exhale to activate. This is to try and encourage the pelvic floor to work in coordination with the rest of the body, not as just an isometric contraction by itself. When we inhale, the diaphragm expands, so does the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor actually works like an aeroplane taking off. So from the back passage, the pelvic floor will extend forward like an aeroplane taking off. Inhale. And exhale, it comes back to a neutral position. And this is what we're actually trying to encourage. So we're trying to encourage this full lengthening and activation, and the relaxation backwards. Inhale fully into activation, and then exhale back to a neutral position. So just to start, before I give you instruction for your pelvic floor, I'm going to ask you actually to see if you have a Pilates band. That's going to be really great. If you don't have a Pilates band, and you can grab yourself now a dressing gown tie or a scarf, anything that can help you have proprioception in the rib cage and a little bit of constriction inwards, because I want your breath to really be the start of your pelvic floor activation. So before we even come into the pelvic floor, we're going to wrap the band around the rib cage, and we're going to pull it slightly out, so that if you inhale into the rib cage, you can feel the band move outwards. And as you exhale, you can let the band relax. Nothing more, nothing less. Just a little movement outwards. And exhale. You will hear me talk about diaphragmatic breath or 360 breathing throughout every single class that I teach. It is so important for a woman's body to allow everything to work in coordination. It will be the thing that I come back to time and time again. With the pelvic floor activation, it is really nice to activate from the back passage forward upwards to the vagina. So I inhale to prepare, that's my preparation, everything is lengthened. As I exhale, I'm going to ask for a contraction through the anus up towards the vagina, and then I'm going to release. So I'm going to ask it to contract up towards, and then I'm going to release. So you have to be thinking, Can I feel an activation in my back passage? And then can I feel the muscles lengthening up and forward? And then can I completely release them? It is just as important that you can let go of your pelvic floor as that you can pull the pelvic floor on. So with the band in place, you're going to take a nice deep inhale. As you exhale, you're going to think anus contracts, forward up towards the vagina, and then I'm going to inhale, everything's going to release back down. Exhale starts the activation. Inhale, everything releases back down. Beautiful. Now, if when you're doing this, you cannot let go of your pelvic floor, like what I just said is as important to release, then you need to take an extra breath between each pelvic floor activation. So I'm not massively interested in how long you can hold the contraction floor. I'm more interested in how fluid the contraction can be. So how much time you can lengthen, how much time you can release. And I want it to be as fluid and with the breath as possible, so everything is working together. We have to stop fighting our bodies. It's really important that we work with our body. So I hope that really helped. I would say that for the first few weeks postnatally, doing a few pelvic floor activation to bring yourself back into your body is a really great thing to get started with.